Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show, Beautifully Bruised and the CPS show. I am so glad you tuned in today. We definitely have a continuation of great stories that we are sharing. And I do have a special guest that's on today by the name of Charles Clinton. My God, when I heard his testimony and some things that he has been going through for quite some time, actually, it is actually when you hear the story, it is completely heartbreaking. It is something that you can't hear this type of story and not want to, be compelled to move to do something, whatever capacity that may be. So, again, I am so honored that he is on the show with us today. Charles Litter. I'm sorry, make sure I say your name correctly.
All right. Okay.
But
Char-
yes, again,
Char- Charles
go ahead.
Lighter.
I'm sorry.
Lighter.
Lighter. Thank you,
You
Charles.
got it.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. I definitely want
Yes.
to make sure I get that correct. But yes,
Yes.
Mr. Lighter, he is here. And again, his story is so compelling. He is a father that loves his children.
I do.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. You can just, from talking to him and just hearing his story, it really touched me in a special place. It shows that there are some good dads out here that genuinely, truly love their children and they will
Mhm.
fight for their kids until they're home. So without any further ado, the story that the video that is going to be shared right after this me speaking, it does deal with domestic violence. So I want you to be prepared to know, again, I am a survivor, overcomer of domestic violence. I was in a relationship for over 10 years. So again, this is personal for me. I am an advocate for domestic violence. I do believe that our voices need to be heard. A lot of people are not able to speak, but thank God we are willing and able to. So again, without anything else being shared, I would like to go ahead and go into the video. By the grace and mercy of God. If it wasn't for God who gave me the strength to endure, to keep going, because that system is set up for you to easily be broken. I am a person that I really do believe that this is a story that's going to change and impact so many different lives. And I am somebody that's willing, that's determined. I am a God-fearing woman first and foremost. And God allowed me to come through something that I know many people didn't unfortunately survive in. I know that what I've been through, it wasn't just for me, it was for so many others. And that's why I can't wait to share my story. I can't wait to share how God had showed me and trusted me to go through the process of healing. My experience, hoping to help others in whatever they're facing along the way. Challenges in my life, dealing with domestic violence, dealing with the government and CPS and different things I've noticed that was not right in so many different ways, on so many different levels that a lot of people are not even aware of, that people are personally going through. A lot of people unfortunately lose their lives dealing with some of these tragedies such as domestic violence. Daddy Light's ministry is light. I see Jesus as my daddy, my heavenly father. I never have known my earthly father, so I've always felt a great connection with Jesus, taking me up as his daughter, because it says in the word that God will become a mother to the motherless and a father to the fatherless, and he has personally been my daddy. So that's where daddy comes from in light. I know we are set to be a light in a dark world for Jesus, so that's where you get Daddy Light's ministry. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the trailer. My heart and my soul, my life is dedicated to it. And I really, really I hope it blesses you and it moves you and it changes you in a way for the better. Again, I just like to share that this is personal for me. Any story that is dealing with CPS, I've also been a victim of CPS. I've also been a victim of domestic violence. So this is something I take dearly and sincerely to my heart. And again, with Charles, the guest that we have on our show today, heard listening to him, his compassion that he had for his children. A man of a good heart, of integrity, and his children is what he is trying to get back due to some of the unfortunate seems to be some concerns dealing with domestic violence. So I would also like for Charles, if you would want to share anything starting out. I normally give the guests to open up, to say anything that just, you want to share while you have this opportunity starting
Sure.
out. Please do so.
And I appreciate you allowing me on the show. Thanks for inviting me. It's
Absolutely.
a great pleasure and honor, and thanks for all you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
Um, yes, you're welcome. And like you mentioned, you found me on Facebook, and I leave my Facebook open public for business and just for so everybody in the world can see
Right.
any posts I make, about the kids
I
and
saw that. Mhm.
CPS and stuff. And so, and by no means, I just want to make this clear. Anything I say about their mom, it's not, I don't say it in anger. I don't say it
Right.
to make it look bad. I don't say it in any way like that. I'm just stating facts,
Right.
I have no anger, no bitterness, no resentment, unforgiveness, nothing like that in my heart toward her. You know what I mean? It's
I
just
do.
stuff that's been going on while they're at her house,
Right.
and that our system, because it is our system,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
not enough of us, we the people, have risen up and
So true.
vi- legally and non-violently. So I just want to make that clear too. There's a way to go about it.
It is.
Uh, but our system has enabled and empowered her to get away with these things for so long that she just thinks she's invincible and she can keep on doing it.
Mhm.
She gets a pat on the hand, and that's it. Well, anyways, when I first met her almost 16 years ago now, she already had 6 CPS cases with her oldest children. Okay, and I didn't know that until several months into the relationship. Well, she already had me hook, line, and sinker by then. We were she got pregnant with our oldest son real quick,
Mhm.
and then we got married, and I was going to church, and I just wanted to let whenever I commit to something, especially marriage, I don't quit. I
Right.
don't back down. And
Right.
I didn't marry you to just play games and to get divorced. I love you. I saw something in her, that she has in her still.
Mhm.
Um, and I just said, man, with me, with my fire, my passion, my energy, and then hers, we can turn this world upside down for Jesus. You know what I mean?
Right. Kingdom
Uh,
couple. Yes.
yeah, exactly, right. And well, then it just started the turmoil ever since. Kicking me out all the time, always having to have the lease and the bills in her name so she can tell me when to come and when to go, and then for 6 years I didn't have my own place, and she'd kick me out, and then a few hours later, a few days, a few weeks later, she'd get me to come back. It was either food, sex, or the kids.
Mm.
Are you hungry? You know, I'm horny, excuse
What
me.
to do?
Everybody does, yeah. And then, or she'd have the kids call me or say the kids are sick, because she knows that those are my babies, and I'll come running anytime.
Right.
Um, well, after 6 years of it, I just said, I can't do this anymore. I've got to build a life for myself and our children.
Right.
Uh, I don't know if that's my hand in the way or what. And so I just knelt down to her one night and I whispered in her ear and I said, just tell me if there's no hope in your heart for us, and I'll move out tomorrow and file for divorce.
Mhm.
And she said, I've been trying to tell you that since you've been here. So I said, all right. And I moved out. And then again. And then, of course, whose fault is it? Mine. Oh, well, you divorced me. All the manipulation and all that stuff. And it's like,
Sounds like a behavior of a narcissist, but I know you say it might not be, but because
yeah, it's like, yeah, that a counselor and then one of the directors at MHMR who I've been talking to, because that's where our children go to, because she's required to take them to psychology and play therapy and all this stuff because of all of her CPS cases.
right.
I asked her, I said, what is that word where when a person is doing something or says you're doing these things to her or them, but it's actually them that's doing the exact same things to you, you
Right.
know, and there's a certain medical word for it. Um, and I said, yeah, that's exactly it. Well, anyways, up to date now, she literally has like 80 to 90 CPS cases.
Okay, that was
80,
gonna be my next question. Because
yeah,
listen, I have never heard of no one person,
yep,
individual, with nearly, would you say 80 to 90 CPS cases?
80, 80 to 90 from from September of 2022 to now. She's had at least 13 to 15 CPS cases. And then people will be like, "Oh, that's you that's calling in." Nope. I stopped doing that. I stopped making reports about 4 or 5 years ago because if I make the reports, then it's just dad making the reports harassing mom. But if I don't make the reports, then it's like, well, why didn't you make the report, dad? Bad dad. You know what I mean? You know that these things are happening and you're not reporting
Right,
them.
right.
So what I started doing several years ago was, for example, I used to go eat lunch with the kids all the time in elementary before COVID hit, and our special needs son said, "Dad, come to the bathroom with me real quick." We were in the cafeteria, and we went in there, and he pulled his pants down, and he had three bruises on his left leg, two on the upper thigh, and one right above his knee. And I was like, "Babe, what's that from?" He's like, "Mom hitting me with the belt."
Hmm.
And these are blue bruises, you know. It's and deep blue bruises. So it's like there was some force there, you
Yeah,
know. She's hit him across his face with a broom handle. She hit him across his waist with a broom handle. These were all reported by his the therapist he was seeing, the school, police, um, her neighbors, ex-boyfriends, strangers. I mean, just the list goes on. Cook Children's Hospital found belt marks. The care team there, they found belt marks on his waist, his abdomen, his hand, his leg, and his upper back. The doctor at Cook Children's said he found the marks to be consistent with physical abuse, but then the CPS caseworker said she did not find the marks to be consistent with physical abuse. And I've heard from CPS caseworkers that that CPS caseworker was wrong because they're normally always supposed to side with what the
that's
doctor said.
yeah, the doctor.
Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I'm thinking like, what is happening here, and how
Mhm.
does she continue to get away with this? So even after the doctor visits, the doctor confirmed that it coincides with abuse. They
Mhm.
still allowed the child to return back to mom.
Yep, yep. And I have no felonies. I have zero CPS cases. I have a 26-year-old son with somebody else, and I've never in my life had a person even mention calling CPS on me. You know, not with our three children or with my 26-year-old. When I first got with, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
When I first got with her, that was my introduction to CPS. You know,
Okay.
I was
Hmm.
like, man, what is no, you know, this is not how it's supposed to be. We are supposed to just be able to live our lives and not have the government or the state or anybody all involved in our, you know what I
Maybe.
mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So,
I really do.
unless something's going wrong and they're actually going to do something about it, you know.
Right.
But they just have and their three excuses to me are, well, we can't go by mom's past CPS cases.
That is
What?
because normally they do.
Yeah, that's what they always tell me. We can't go by mom's past CPS cases. We can only go by her current one. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So I did
That's
ask him several weeks ago. I said, is there anywhere on paper that I can see that you
yeah,
can't go by her? You know what I mean?
of
So I'm gonna
course.
get on after this interview. I'm gonna call them again. I'm gonna call the Office of Consumer Affairs. Now it's something else out in Austin, and ask them if there's something on paper that I can see that says that.
I would
The
strongly recommend that. Yes, and also
Yeah,
I don't know. Go ahead. I'm listening.
no, no, no. You go ahead. You don't know what.
Well, I was just going to say with that, Charles, because normally, again, that's normally what they go by is the history. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
almost looking for some type of history from a previous encounter they can hold against you. And here's
Right.
someone that you say, again, has 80 to 90 or so previous cases, a
Yeah.
trough full of
Yes.
cases. And they're saying, oh, no, we're not going to look at those. We can't look at
Yep.
those. And even though
Yep.
there's a current abuse now, even a doctor because normally, from my understanding, those are the normal where the cases, CPS cases, are created from a doctor's office, from a school, or somebody that has something against you, and they just trying to do something out of being malicious and out of spite.
Right.
those type of ways, or how the CPS cases are reported, and they had all that substantial evidence, and they're still like not looking at it, saying no, this didn't happen. So
I, I
um
even
oh my God. Okay.
I even emailed Jamie Masters. She was the what do you call it? The commissioner of DFPS last year
Mm-hmm.
or the year before. There's a new commissioner now. And I emailed her and I sent like 25 to 30 photos to, back up, of the bruises, the
Right.
disgusting living conditions at mom's house, just to show that, hey, I can back up everything I say.
Yeah,
You know,
evidence.
yeah, yeah. And they said, oh, well, we understand your concerns, blah, blah, blah. And this is from the office in Austin from the commissioner. I don't know if it went to the commissioner, but hopefully it went to the assistant or somebody, you know what I
Somebody.
mean?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
I still have that. I still have those emails, and she didn't like my second email because I told her, I said, look, y'all are in a position, a very high position, of authority and leadership. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I presented all these photos. I've told you what's been going on. And I said, you're going to be judged in this time and in this life and or the next, you
Yes, I
know,
agree.
and they didn't respond to that one, but it's okay. Um,
Let me
but
ask you. Okay, go ahead, Charles. I have it because okay, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. You go, please.
Well, I just want to say, because I noticed previously in my, my matter that I had, when I did things on my own,
Hmm.
to me, it wasn't effective.
Okay.
No, not saying what you're presenting is not substantial, it's not true. You have concrete
Sure.
evidence of pictures, of doctors' reports, things of that nature that they normally go by,
Uh-huh.
but they're not responding. So I'm thinking, do you have a not a pro bono attorney, but do you have an attorney like Attorney Benz, that's the platform, that the show that we're on today, someone that knows CPS laws, that's aggressive, that knows how to take on CPS? Have you ever had someone to represent you in that manner, to provide that information?
My we I've hired three attorneys, okay,
Okay.
4 years ago, and found out why so many attorneys have bad reputations because they just take your money and rip you off. I'm not saying all of them, okay, but
Right. Right.
I learned personally why so many of them have those reputations.
Reputation. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they took my money, and then the first one said I need $12,000 more, knew I didn't have it, then withdrew from counsel.
Mm.
Second one took my money. I was 1750 away from paying her off. A month later, she emails me and says, I finally had enough time to look over your caseload and I can't do this without an additional $20,000. So I'm withdrawing from
Yeah.
counsel. The third one I hired, so that was with a final trial date already set. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, yeah, I'm like crushed. I'm like, what do I do now? So I just went in, and our judge was new at the time, and he's a great judge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's a person, so he's not perfect, but he's a great judge,
Okay.
and he has a good reputation as far as, like, I have had a couple of attorneys tell me that he doesn't prejudge. He
Okay.
looks
I'm
at he watches.
Yeah.
Yeah, he watches body language. He listens to your tone and how you're talking to your ex-spouse or whoever. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Okay. And then he looks at the evidence, and then he makes his judgment. You know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, well, he was 7 months new at the time of our last trial.
Okay.
And so I don't know if it was just I'm the boss here now, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or what it was. But mom had North Texas Legal, never mind. Mom had an attorney. That attorney, it was her last case. And so she was retiring after that. And mom's attorney subpoenaed mom's own CPS cases. So that in itself should say something. You got your own CPS caseworkers here, and they lied on the stand. Okay, so that I never cooperated with them, so that the children were afraid of me. Well, number one, I don't have to cooperate with you because I don't have any CPS cases. You know what I mean?
Never
Number
heard nothing
two,
like this in my life.
I
My
did
God.
cooperate with you. I said, I know I don't have to do this, but just to show you that I'm willing, I will go to these co-parenting classes or whatever,
Hmm.
and I did. But I said, it's just a joke to their mom. I said, she just knows, that y'all are going to make her do these classes and give her a little pat on the hand and she'll be done. I said, but just to show you that I'm willing, I'll do it. And I did it like 8 times on one, in one facility, and I was driving 45 minutes each way, and it was just nothing but a joke to her. So I said, all right, I'm done. I don't have to do this. I did my part, show that I was
Mhm.
willing. Um, and I told them too. I said, look, I signed in every time I went in there, so there should be some sort of record. And then um, the second one was that our children were afraid of me. Our children were not afraid of me. You could not get our children. Our kids would call me when it wasn't even my day, from the school office phone after school or from their mom's cell phone. Like, Dad, will you come get us? Like, heck yes, I'll go get you. I've been working for myself since 2007, so I'll just stop and go get them. I
Right.
had them on summer vacations that weren't mine, spring breaks, Christmas, you name it, I had them. You know, and I don't. That's all I wanted. That's all they wanted too.
To spend time
So
with
there's
your
no way
children.
they were afraid of me. They would scream bloody murder when they had to go back to their mom's house.
And with that being said, Charles, I would like to ask you when just to back up a little bit, when you were in court and you agreed to the CPS,
I'm
you know,
losing some volume here. Let me
okay,
see if I can take something.
okay,
Let me see if something happened here. That one. That one.
because I can hear you.
What's that?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, you're kind of a whisper to me. Let me
Oh,
see if I did something. Okay, Mike. Oops. Come on. I'm not gonna do this. You're gonna go right back.
I'm
There you
trying
are.
to look.
Are you
Okay,
there?
that's yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go sideways.
There we go.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're
Okay,
still at a whisper, but I'm gonna do my best to hear you.
okay. Let me try to adjust my mic the best I can so you can hear me. Um, can you hear me now? Is that
It's still kind of a whisper. I don't know what happened, but
okay?
and my volume is all the way up. But I can hear you if you want to proceed.
Okay, I would definitely try to speak louder. Since I do maybe having, but yeah, I can speak louder. That's no problem. I just want to ask you on what you just said when you agreed to some of the I guess the CPS um, caseworker was saying that she wanted you to attend some classes. Did you have any representation at that time by any chance, or you just was just trying to agree to go along to make make peace of
Yeah,
everything?
I just agreed to go along just to show them that I was willing. I hadn't started the court process yet, so this was like more. This was maybe 6 to 8 years ago.
Okay.
I just started the family court system about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I think that that makes a difference too, because it just seemed like to me when they don't, when they know, when CPS knows you don't have legal counsel, like a aggressive attorney that actually knows the CPS laws, that they kind of use that to manipulate you.
Yeah,
Um, you know what I'm saying? It just, and like you say, before you look up, you're in one hearing, and if you don't have representation, you're getting further and further down this tunnel or black hole, and that's why I strongly recommend by me also, at one point in time that didn't have representation, I think I ended up doing more harm than good with that. So it
right.
just seemed like, once I took on that credible legal representation, and like you say, it is a fee, but some attorneys allow you to pay it out on payment plans or whatever the case, they may allow. But it was so worth it once I had that attorney, someone like Attorney Vince, that knew the laws. I mean, because all attorneys don't know the CPS laws. Like,
Right, right,
it's
right.
it's all over the place. So they have to know the laws and be aggressive. So my story began to take a change for a 360. And
Yeah.
and I again thank by the grace and mercy of God. That the judge ordered them to return my child. So, but I shared that because I know that's what was beneficial in my story, and he made a
Okay.
huge difference.
Yeah,
So,
in my case,
mhm.
there has never really been any CPS involved in our court cases.
Oh, okay,
It's just been me and her, her word against mine.
right.
When that last attorney did that to me, I had
Mhm.
no idea how to submit my evidence, the medical records, police reports, all the pictures,
Right.
and so that is what caused me to lose the case. But Our 12-year-old was coming to me the last 2 years with bruises all over his body, dark, deep, black, blue, purple, brown bruises. And I noticed them June 5th of 2021. We have a neighbor who lets us use his pool,
Mm-hmm.
and our daughter and our son were in here, and they got changed. And he walked past me, and I looked on his shoulder, and I said, "Adrian," or I said, "Son, what's that?" And he had this dark, deep blue bruise on his shoulder. And he said that was from, I think, his older brother hitting him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, from that day on, I was checking his body, and he'd come over with bruises on his, on his arms. He had five more, six more on both of his arms, and his brother hit a huge growth spurt and was just bullying him.
Wow.
Uh, and what happened was, I believe, is that see, mom has kept our 14-year-old from me for 2.5 years, and against the court order, because the court order says that during our time, all three children are to come with me uh, until the age of 18, unless otherwise emancipated. So I make the child custody interference reports every time. So our
I want to
middle,
ask you. Good. So you are making the reports when she don't abide by it, right?
right. So I
Okay.
have my, when I go back to court, I'm going to go to, Fort Worth PD and get all the child custody interference reports, to show that she's in contempt too. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yes.
and I mean, he came over the last time was July 30th, and he had some nasty, nasty bruising on his chest and one deep blue bruise on the inside of his right thigh. And I asked him what happened. And he said his older brother, he was sitting on the couch, and he had the remote, and his older brother wanted it, and he just dug his nails into our son's chest and started twisting, squeezing. And I mean, it was bad. It made, I'll send you a picture later, but it made some bad bruising. And then he kneed him on the inside of his thigh. And I said, "Babe, Dad's got to report this." And he just almost started crying. He was like,
He's
"Dad,
probably
no, please,
scared.
no."
Yes.
Because it's been like the whole house against him. Mom has had our 10-year-old daughter whip him with a belt. You know what I
Oh, the
mean?
other kids collaborate and whoop on him as well. I like
Huh?
this. You say the other children, she allowed them to whoop on him as well.
Yeah. Yeah. They keep the phone away from him because they know, she knows that he'll try to make contact, with me or the police or something. So it's been like the whole house against him. And so he's like, "Dad, no, please, no." So I didn't be for his safety. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking, is it more for his safety to call the police? Because I'm just because they, with that being said, Charles, I want to this is something that I would like for you to also mention. I think that it is important. I know you said that regarding the very last incident that occurred, um, can you please share the story where you say your child, and again, based off of what you just shared, with he seemed not to be safe in the location where he's at because of the abuse. What did he do the very last time you said when he tried to just to get to you? I,
Okay.
yeah.
So this past Saturday, which would have been, I think, April 29th,
Hmm.
he walked on I-20 major highway here,
Major.
midday. Okay. Um, all the way on the highway
Busy
from his
highway all day long too. I want to say that as well.
from
Yes.
his mom's house to me. He walked about 8 or 9 miles on the highway, and then a lady stopped and picked him up and drove him the last 3 miles. And when he got here, he had two bruises underneath his lip. He said mom popped him in the face a few times, and he had scratches on his arms, bruises, cuts and scratches on his back, and bruises on both thighs on the inside. Said that mom has been making him stay up for over 24 hours at a time,
For
and
what reason?
just forcing him to stay awake. And I called the deputy, the sheriff's department locally. They came out, saw all the stuff on his body, and said, I'm going to let him stay here with you."
Thank
And then
God.
he radioed into his station and said, "Son is staying with dad. Child looks deconditioned." And then he got in his unit and came back out maybe 15 minutes later and said, "Well, I'm sorry. Sergeant said that he can't stay with you because it's technically not your time. And I'm
Really?
like, are you kidding me? You know?
The
And
child
what I
is shown to be in danger.
yes, exactly. And that's what the last deputy said in September when I called them out here about I was telling you about that bruising. Well, I
Yes.
dealt with it all August, like mentally. I'm like, man, I've got to report this. I've got to report this. And then finally, on August 27th and 29th, it was the last August of 2022, last Monday in August of 2022. And I told, I mean, she's threatened to chop his head off. She's threatened to cut his tongue out. She's threatened to chop his hand, his fingers off. Yeah,
Okay.
really, really just sick
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah, this is
And,
psychotic at this point. This is, seems to be a mental illness
yes,
mixed.
yeah. And so, yeah, I'll tell you, I think I told you the other day, but so I called that Monday night and asked to speak to a sergeant. Call me back real quick. I told him. He said, "Man, anyone ever threatened to chop my daughter's head off, I'd be on a plane back to England with her right now." He said, "I'll tell you what. Call me when you get your boy. I'll send my guys out. You keep him. That way you're not in contempt of court," which he was wrong, but it helped. He said, "Show my guys what you have, and then I'll send my guys to mom's house to investigate." So I got him the following Saturday on September 3rd. I called them out. The deputy and the sergeant came out. So I showed them my pictures on the phone, told them what had been going on, showed them something else, a journal that Adrian had, our son had been writing in. I never forced him to write. You know what I mean?
He
I
must
tell
be a
him that
smart child. Oh my God.
will help for sure, but daddy will never make you write. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right, of
And
course.
there's been
That
plenty of
might be
times.
his way to vent through all the madness.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I asked one of his therapists too. I said, "Is it okay that I'm having him write?" And she said, "Oh yeah, of course." You know, and
Wow.
there's been plenty of times where he didn't want to write, and I said, "That's fine, baby. Daddy will never make you." But there, I mean, that thing is loaded,
Oh
you know. And I
wow.
showed the deputy that, and he's like, "I've got to take this. Is that okay?" I said, "Look, I gave him my word. I shook his hand. I made him look me in the eye. I said, I will never let anyone see this until I know you never have to go back to your mom."
Right.
He goes, "I understand. This is very important. It's extremely serious. We want to help you. We want to get the ball rolling for you. I'm going to turn it into our CID unit. They're probably going to call you and have you come down and hook up your phone to their computer, transfer the photos."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "All right, thank God, you know."
Right.
And so,
Something is being done, hopefully and prayerfully.
yeah. And so I asked him, I said, I'm supposed to return him around 6 o'clock, around 8 o'clock tonight. And she dropped him off 2 hours late. So we have an understanding of however long however late she drops him off, that's how much longer I keep him. And
Okay.
so she dropped him off about an hour and 45 minutes late. So I said, "I'm supposed to return him tonight at 8. What do I do?" The sergeant looks at me and he goes, "Man, in good conscience and with all this," he says, "I can't tell you to give him back to her."
Of
He says,
course.
"Look, you keep your boy. We're getting off duty. We'll fill the next shift in on what's going on. If mom comes over here later trying to get him, call us. We'll come have her removed." So
Did they
sure enough,
call? I'm sorry, Charles. Did they ever call CPS?
okay, that's another thing too. And I have the report. Did I send you the report last night?
You sent me, I think the first 2 or 3 pages, and this information
Uh-huh.
you're sharing today about some of the things is different from the stuff you said she was doing, showing the videos. That was completely um, inappropriate.
Okay. Well, the report that he made, I'll look back and see what I sent you. But the report that he made, the deputy,
Mhm.
he said, "I'm calling CPS and I'm going to push for immediate removal of all children from their house." He
Yes,
called
this is
while he
what
was
it
in the
needs to
drive.
be done. These kind of
He,
stories.
he called while he was in the driveway here. So
Mhm.
yeah, and then and then they didn't do anything, and
CPS didn't come out.
yeah, they came out, but mom ignored them. She never answered the door. She never answered their phone calls, and so they just stopped. Yeah, it even got transferred from CPS to FBSS, like Family Based Safety Services.
I never
It got
heard of that. What is that? If you don't mind sharing what that means.
FBSS.
Mhm.
Okay, so FBSS. So you have CPS, who, and I'm just learning this. I'm no scholar on it, but
No, that's
uh,
fine.
CPS is who it first goes to, like a CPS caseworker,
Right.
And then I guess it just got escalated to a different department, which is called FBSS, which is Family Based Safety Services.
Huh.
So it's a higher level than just a regular
Or the
CPS case.
CPS, right.
And when it got transferred to her, I cooperated with her, let her come over here to the house, see, to see our son, and anytime she wanted to. And then, but she said
So
that
did they
mom never
place the child with you and they made her just come to your location to visit the child while it was under investigation?
well, the deputies, I had four sergeants and one deputy, four or five sergeants and one deputy um, from that sheriff's department tell me to never return him to mom.
Right.
And so I just kept him.
You
You
should.
know, yeah, and it was against the court order, and judges do not like that. You
But
know,
again, if the child is placed in harm's way and you have credible evidence, you said you had four deputies or sheriffs there that has
they seem
reports.
they seem not to care. They say we don't care. This is the order that we made, and you're violating our order. Which I mean, it does make sense. And if you have the money to go get an attorney, you know what I mean? Then that's a different story. I mean, I've exhausted like so many different like pre legal places. She got legal aid, so it's a conflict of interest. Um, Texas A&M has a family law clinic or a law clinic, and they take family cases.
Mhm.
And but in order for them to represent you, the children have to be placed in your care.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
Yeah, they said it's in their grant. That's the way it's set up in their grant.
That the
You
child has to be in your custody, living with
know,
you in your home, your
and
location.
it makes sense and it doesn't. It's like, well, if they're in my care, why do I need you? But
Correct.
I may need them to modify an order or something. You know what I mean? To change an order.
That
Because
modification of an order or something like that. Again, I must admit that maybe it's just me, but I'm still so confused. If you didn't have substantial evidence of these your children that's being harmed with bruises, this baby has a journal that is verbally letting you know in so many words that he's not safe. Um, the doctors have even shared that the same information that this is obviously abuse that's taking place. How in the world, and this person has, you say 70 to 80 CPS cases
80 to
altogether.
90,
I'm sorry,
80
up to
to 90.
90.
And when that first caseworker that came here from the sheriff's department, um, she came inside, we talked, and then I walked her outside to her car, and I said, "You do know that mom has like 80 or more CPS cases?" And she goes, "I know. I looked at her history."
And that was
Yeah,
like, that was it.
that was it. And I have a text message to her, and I said, "Hey," I said, "You agreed with me in the front yard here at the house that mom has over 80 CPS cases." She didn't deny it in the text, and she didn't confirm it either. She just didn't say anything about it. You
It's
know what I
almost like
mean?
she got someone personally in the system that is allowing her to continue to
Yep.
get away with this. And I don't know how she's doing it because normally they do look at history, and she's currently still showing to be, like you say, we're not on here to, like, I understand you're trying to protect her integrity because your main focus and concern is, like you expressed to me on yesterday, you just want your children to be safe in a safe
That's it.
environment where they're
That's it.
not being abused physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. So, and I commend you for that actually by being a person of, you have to have an integrity because so many people, all the, obviously the traumatizing that you've been through with your children, the manipulation and the control. It does to me seem like someone of a narcissist because I know they're big about manipulation. They're big about control, getting what they want. And honestly, they'll make you seem like they're the victim when really they are the initiator of the terror. So,
Yep. They're
um,
they're the ones who are doing it all. They're not the victim.
absolutely, absolutely, and
Yeah.
they're normally very smart people. I've noticed too. They know who to talk to, how to finesse, how to play the game.
Yeah.
They got all the cards covered, like you
Yep.
say. And she, at this point in time, if she had previously 90 CPS cases for only
Eight,
one person.
yep. 80 to 90. Yep.
Okay, from 80 to 90 cases, she
And
obviously know how this game is played.
And I want to say that out of those 80 to 90, I've made maybe 10 to 15 of them. You know
Wow.
what I mean? But
Right.
you still have 80, 70 to 80 to account for that have been called in by the police, our children's school many, many times, therapists many, many times, neighbors, strangers, ex-boyfriends, children's hospital. Her old
A trauma
counselor
that
made a report
a
against her.
variety. Wow.
Yeah, you know. So, and I never made up a story either. The kids would come over and tell me certain things, and I'm like, I got
Right.
to report it. If I don't report it, then what's going to come of it. Maybe hopefully it's going to help if I report it.
But I see
But
why you say a lot of times that you don't do any reports, because it obviously, if she continues to keep the kids, no matter if she's beating them or abusing them or whatever she's doing, she continued to keep the kids. So as I take it, that's the reason why after you used to report the abuse and you see that nothing was being done about it, so you stopped. Is that the reason why? Or you thinking she might
stopped.
retaliate
Only
against the kids?
I stopped making the reports myself,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever something was going on, like bruises or whatever, then
Mm-hmm.
I would call the school nurse, or I would talk to whichever therapist they were seeing,
Mm-hmm.
because as part of their quote, as part of CPS's quote services, mom is required to take our children to psychology and play therapy and all this stuff.
Right.
So, I stopped making the reports, but I didn't stop telling. I handed it over to the professionals
Right.
and let the professionals deal with it,
Mhm.
make the reports because
Right.
they're required by law, you
Right. Of
know?
course. Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I never let one thing go without, not making a report. I didn't do it personally, but I let the professionals do it.
You let them handle it. And with that being said, have it ever been a time where she's been on her services, or I think it's one that's called
What you say?
safety plans or something like that? They have
Oh, of course. If she breaks those things the first day,
well, with that being
you
said, I
know?
thought that if the parent was not upholding the safety plans or the whatever plans that this caseworker has in place, that will basically the parent will lose those rights. They will lose their rights with their children being at home if the rights were not being honored. A
Right.
grow
So I have no way to prove it, right? And so mom has put so much fear, tried to put so much fear into our children to not say anything. So they have no way to prove that she's broken the safety plan because our children know. I mean, they've been dealing with CPS for years. They've seen CPS come
but
dozens
you
of times.
can't call in
And
to
so,
say
and
something
they
about
used to make these
that.
outcries, but
Hmm.
they see that CPS has never done anything. And then whenever CPS leaves, who are they stuck at home with? They're stuck at home with mom to get pulled, dragged across the house by their ears and their hair and yelled at and threatened. So they just learned after a period of time to keep their mouths shut because nobody's protecting me. You know what I mean?
So the
I've told
children,
you
I
guys
understand,
before, you
right?
didn't do anything. You left me here with her, and I'm tired of getting hurt.
Wow.
So they don't say anything anymore.
But don't the caseworkers come out and interview with the children to speak with
Right.
them?
That's what I'm saying. Our children have made outcries to them before,
Uh-huh.
and then whenever the caseworkers tell mom, hey, your children are telling us these things, um, then mom says, oh, they're lying, and then the CPS caseworker leaves, and then mom will pull them by their ear. Like I've got a picture of her pulling our daughter by the ear, and the outside of her ear is real bruised, and on the back side there's two nail scabs from nails. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. So the children are tired of being hurt, after they make certain outcries,
Right.
because you know what I mean, because now they're left with mom, and mom knows that they said something, and so then she does whatever she does to hurt them, and then put fear into them. So our children are just in survival mode. So
Mm,
if the
my
CPS
God.
caseworker talks to them one on one, they say, no, everything's okay, everything's okay, you know. And I've even had CPS caseworkers tell me and one of my best friends several times that they can tell that mom is coaching them, our
On
children,
what
into
to
what to
say.
say or
Right.
not to say.
Right.
you know.
That's what it sounds like.
So I mean, our babies are they're just protecting themselves by not saying anything anymore.
With that being said, well, what you just said, this is such an interesting case to me. Because it seemed like it's just so many reasons and so much substantial evidence to show that these children are being abused. And for some
Mhm.
reason, they have to have a silent cry and no one is listening. And
Right.
I watch so many stories of kids that have tried to reach out and people that know that these children are being abused, that unfortunately, by time something is done, unfortunately, sometimes it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not going to wait that long.
So,
CPS hasn't liked me because when they don't do anything about the cases, I call all my state reps, senators, governor's office, and then they call CPS saying, "Hey, Dad's calling. What's going on?" But that shouldn't matter. Do your
it
job.
shouldn't
You
matter.
know
Yeah,
what I
this
mean?
is not. This is like we're talking about lives, hearts, and souls. To me, like I say,
Yeah.
CPS is supposed to be there. From my understanding, is to protect the children,
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
sure they're safe. And I'm
Child
trying to understand.
Child Protective Services.
Child protective case, absolutely. And if
Yeah.
that is true, why do you know these children are not being saved and you have evidence to show they're being abused, but yet and still they remain in this unsafe home? That's
Hmm.
my number one question. And with that
Yeah.
being said, what do you think that needs to be done? What needs to happen for your kid's life to feel normal,
I just need to get back in court. Our
protected?
judge told me. Our judge told me back in September, whenever the sheriff's department told me to keep him,
Hmm.
we had to go to court on September. I had him for 27 days, so I think it was like September 30th. Um, Here's another thing too. September 30th, we had to go back to court. It was a Friday, and
Hmm.
I told our judge what happened, and I told our judge what happened. He spoke
Hmm.
with our son back in his chambers for about 5 to 8 minutes, what it seemed like. And then he came back out and he looked at mom and he goes, "I'm very, very, very concerned with what's happening here." He says, "No more physical discipline for this boy." And then he looked at me. He was standing up at his bench and he had his arms spread open. Excuse me. And he goes, "Mr. Leiter," he said, "CPS didn't investigate. The police didn't investigate. And I have nothing before me that gives me grounds not to let him go back with his mom." So if the sheriff's department's CID unit would have investigated, then this would have been stopped back in September.
Wow.
And I've been calling them. I've been blowing them up, with phone calls. I laid off of them for a couple months, but I started back up again 2 days ago,
Hmm.
uh, calling them because on their website, because now Fort Worth Crimes Against Children Unit, I spoke with a captain with Fort Worth, lieutenant, 3 or 4 sergeants, and I met with 2 officers in person as far as all the assaults and stuff,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't do anything about it. And then I talked to Fort Worth's Crimes Against Children's Unit, and the sergeant there said that they only investigate felony cases, not just like bruises and stuff. She said it's even in the penal code, and then she started describing some of the horrific, sick things that they investigate. I don't even want to say it. But after she told me that, I said, "Okay, I understand. I'll leave you alone, and I'll go to Tarrant County Sheriff because they were the ones who were supposed to investigate anyways. The patrol units that came out,
Hmm.
and and they still have our son's journal." And I said, "I'm not picking it up." They tried to get me to submit a request to retrieve the evidence. I said, "Nope, that's in y'all's evidence. Y'all are going to look at that thing and read what our son said in there." And I love our law enforcement. So I don't, if I sound like I have an attitude toward them, it's not that. It's just a
Right.
frustration, the righteous indignation and anger. You know what I mean? But
Of course.
our children are going through HE double hockey sticks, and you've got all the evidence right there. Plus, you didn't even call me one time to see any photos of the bruises and the injuries. You know what I mean? Um, but I forgot where I was going with that. Um, but no, on the Tarrant County, on the sheriff's website, on the CID unit's website, it says crimes against children that they investigate are
Mhm.
physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse. I mean, even emotional abuse and neglect, they say that they investigate.
It seems like
And I
that
said,
should fit
well,
in the category of that. And even if they're saying that this particular type of, even if they're saying that they don't handle this type of situation, could they not refer you to whoever that would be responsible that would handle these type of cases?
well, that was Fort Worth Crimes Against Children's Unit that only investigates felony cases,
Hmm.
but sheriff's department on their website it says that crimes against children that they investigate are physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse. And I said, look, it's on your website. You our children fall into the first three categories out of the four that are on your website: physical abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. I said, so either I may not have, should not have said it this way or not. I said, so either investigate this case or take that off your website. Because
Right.
our children have been going through this for years, up to
Right.
date. And then one of the sergeants called me and said, well, it wouldn't be fair for me to put this load on my guys because we only have four investigators here, and Fort Worth has at least 20. And it's like, I already told you, Fort Worth said that they only investigate cases, and numbers don't matter. Hire another detective. Put hours wherever you have to put it on the totem pole. Let's
Hmm.
just get this thing investigated. I told him too. I said, look, I'm
Absolutely.
not trying to get mom in trouble. I'm not trying to put her in jail. I said, that's up to y'all. You know
It's
what I
about
mean?
the children that's being abused. And again,
Yeah.
this is why I wanted to bring your story on, because obviously it seemed like it's falling on deaf ears. And I honestly, I am not an attorney. I can only, speak off of my own personal experience that I've encountered. I just want to say to you that we're getting close to wrapping up the show. But like I said, from what you shared with me and what the viewers and the listening audience is hearing from your story, is that obviously you need some help with getting
Yes.
these children into safety. And with that being said, I would strongly urge you to reach out to Attorney Vince. Um, I will stay in, communication with you, or I can provide you the telephone number, which is also listed here on the bottom of the screen. I know that I know he do believe allow consultations. So, because you need an attorney that
Yeah.
will fight for you,
Yeah.
that knows CPS laws, and that is aggressive, and that has you and your children best interests in heart.
And this is really going to be pretty easy because whenever I don't know how much time we have, but I'll make it quick. But
Okay.
whenever he talked to our son in his chambers, he made me wait until mom left, and it was the judge, and it was me, the judge, and two bailiffs. And he looked at me and he goes, "Get an attorney, come back, and that boy's yours."
That's it.
And the reason he told me to get an attorney was because he knew I didn't know what I was doing,
Excuse
and he wanted everything filed perfectly, said
me.
perfectly, so he can be done.
Right.
So that's all it's a matter of is just getting an attorney, you
Getting the
know.
right attorney, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, one that actually knows the laws. Like I said, even if you can't get attorney Vince, but someone that is reputable, that has the knowledge and the experience to know how the CPS laws and know how to fight CPS with these laws. So I think that you've been trying many places. Seem like you've definitely been very determined to try to find many resources or plans that you can to help get this thing to resolve. But it just seemed like maybe they're not the ones that's needed. Maybe it is an effective attorney that knows how to fight CPS with these laws. So I would definitely would like to connect you, give you his contact number where you can, like I said, it's on the bottom of the screen, or even
Mhm.
help you find someone that is reputable, that has that type of same effectiveness to help you bring your children out of safe, out of harm's way and into safety. Because even some things you shared with me, some of the things the children's been exposed to, it is very disturbing. It's
Yeah.
it's, it's horrifying, to be honest,
Yeah.
to be more exact. So
So you don't
to
even want to
again,
say.
huh?
Stuff you don't even want to repeat. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of the things that you shared yesterday was extremely disturbing that these children had to witness. So it's definitely, I am praying that God will bring in safety into your house to get your children out of harm's way and into safety. And with that being said, last but not least, what words of wisdom that you would like to share with any other families? Like you say, you've never had personally a CPS case, but unfortunately, your wife at the time had 6 cases that you wasn't aware of until later after the fact. And I guess later after that, she accumulated what about 80 something or 70 more cases after that. So that I have never heard of one person having nearly 100 CPS cases and nothing is being done by it. I have never heard that in my entire life. So that's another reason why I thought it was so important to bring your story on, because I have never heard this. I'm sure a lot of people agree with me. This is the first I've known somebody that has these many cases and nobody's doing anything about it. And they're allowing the kids to stay in that environment to be harmed. So with that being said, can you give Charles any type of encouragement for someone to not, fall into this trap of, I think maybe you want to get to know who you're with. I know that's important, but sometimes you don't know nothing until after the fact. Somebody have had, 6 CPS cases and over time accumulated 70, 80 more. That also seems to be something that maybe mental that's going on. Maybe they're not aware of. And that's another reason why I'm surprised CPS. That's normally what I thought the services was for, to help you get in resources and classes to help you, whatever needs you may have, mental or emotional, or whatever you need to help you be better for the children and yourself. So, but yes, with that being said, please, if there's any advice you like to share, I have about a minute or two, about a minute or two.
Thank you very much. So I just want to encourage all y'all, just, if you're going through something or if you're just meeting somebody, they always say to get it, y'all check their credit scores and make sure that, they're not in debt and you know what I mean, things like that. But most importantly, of course, if they have children, make sure that they don't have CPS cases, because you don't want to get stuck, 4 months down the road finding something out and you're already in love or whatever it is, y'all have a child already. But if you're already going through it, I just, whether you believe in God or not, you put your faith in Him.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
He will fight your battles for you.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't always seem like He comes through when we want Him to. But
Mm.
I heard an old preacher say last year that God always comes through. It just seems like He comes through at 11:59 and 59 seconds. Like if you need your rent at midnight, He's gonna be there. But how long are we willing to wait
For him to
for
arrive.
Him?
Absolutely. He might not come when you want him, but he's always right on time.
Yeah. He always comes through.
Yes,
He's
he does.
known for being faithful. He said it and He will do it. He said it and He will bring it to pass.
He will.
And
And his
nothing
Mhm.
successfully against us. God is faithful, and that's the only thing that has been able to get me through these last 4 years.
Mm. God.
Of us. Yeah. Anyways, it's just God.
That's it.
He
That
loves
is
faith. Yeah, and as long as you give it to Him, He will take care of it.
And I am a living witness of that. And again, Charles, I want to say thank you so much for sharing this heartful story. I am praying for you and your children that they will return home back to safety with their dad. And I tell you to keep God first. And first and foremost, I want to say as we begin to end the show, keep God first, because He is the
That's it.
only one that is faithful, that will see you through it all. So Charles, I must stay in touch with you, because I might be bringing you back later on to just to stay in touch to see how your story is going. Okay.
I'll get a better background and better dress and all that stuff. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for all you
Absolutely.
do.
No
Okay.
problem. You have a blessed day. We'll be in
You
touch.
too.
And again, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into our show today. I pray that, my God, that it will open up your eyes to see what people are really dealing with out here in real life. This is real stories that people are battling every day for the safety of their children. And I am praying that if something is not right, speak up, let somebody know. Our children, sometimes we're their only arms and legs and feet and mouth. So again, this child, his children definitely is trying to show what is happening, but for some odd reason, no one is doing anything about it. So let's come together as a community and help these children, to help ourselves, and let's continue to keep God first, because He is the only way that we're going to make it out of this. Thank you for watching, and you have a blessed weekend.